Tara, welcome to Tutor Boot. I am really excited for you to be here. We've been talking about some of these subjects offline, and so I'm really stoked to dig in with you more about them. But before I do, I never remember to ask people to actually intro themselves. And I know you, but other folks might not. So
Sure.
tell us tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tara Turk Haynes, and I am the founder and consultant for a company I started called Equity Activations, and we embed DEI into existing operations so that it has stickiness and allows people to have real lasting results as opposed to initiatives. I've been in talent acquisition for over 17 years for major companies like Ticketmaster, mid-sized public companies like Leaf Group that owned e-commerce and media brands. And I am excited to be here. Oh, she, her, hers pronouns. And yeah, that's important.
Thank you. And I realized I said Tara and you said Tara. And this is because I just know you on the internet so much that I have formed a
Right.
pronunciation in my head.
Oh my goodness. It's totally fine. There's only two ways you can say it. And so it really kind of works out that way.
I had a 50-50 chance and I took
Never
it.
offended.
Well, all right.
Well, here we are.
We will get started. This is one that I actually had folks requesting to talk about, so I'm glad that we're going to dig into this. Amazon calls workers back 5 days a week.
Oy,
Other
oy.
companies may be right behind them, expert says. So the title kind of says it all there. Amazon has said that beginning January, all workers are going to need to be in the office 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
Baloney, this is a boot. This is like, this is just a, I feel like a lot of these companies are using the culture scapegoat for real estate reasons, for an inability to be agile like they say they want to be anyway, specifically when it comes to strategic business initiatives. You also probably didn't define what company culture actually means. And so therefore your default is going to be the old ways. I do not personally think a lot of companies are going to be right behind them,
Yeah.
but like DEI initiatives, I feel like those who are performative when they say that they have great company culture will show themselves to be what they actually are. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean it's interesting, just as you said, right? It's always like, oh, it's because of culture, because of collaboration,
Right.
productivity. Okay, cool. So let's talk about that. Where's your data that being in the office 5 days a week is
Vibes. Just
yeah,
vibes. It's just vibes.
it's just vibes. Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
vibes.
We get the vibes of productivity. We can see you in your chairs.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, collaboration, sure. We've talked on Tutor Boot before about how everyone's just sitting in meetings all the time.
Yeah.
So not really collaborating. And then you want to talk about culture, and you talk about this, and also we've seen that RTOs heavily impact people with disabilities,
Yep.
women, and racialized groups.
Yep.
So what culture are we trying
What
to?
culture are we even talking about? I feel like there's an inability for a lot of leaders to continuously grow as leaders and understand how to manage in times that change. And so they just go back to the default. Also, they think there's a little bit of, if I had to suffer through it, so do you.
Mm,
Like I had to go to work when I first started 5 days a week, and so you're gonna have to do the same. Because I've heard a lot of other people also talk about like, oh, this workforce that's coming in now, because they're coming out of a pandemic, they don't have socialized skills, they don't have this, they don't have that. Well, you could also just figure out another way to teach those things in a hybrid setting, or
right.
you know what I mean? Like that, you just forcing people to come in doesn't mean that they're going to get it either way anyway. This is just
Yeah.
so lazy to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think I mean, the interesting thing is, right, it doesn't, to your point, it doesn't really seem like other organizations are going to be doing this,
Hmm.
because it essentially only, what did I think they say, one third of companies are requiring employees to come back into the office. So it doesn't seem like Amazon is on the forefront here, right? Like
Right.
that's not what's happening. They're not being innovative in this.
No. And you have other things to fix, Amazon. I mean, is this where you want to put your efforts right now? You've
Yeah.
got other things to fix. And like I think I saw where the new Starbucks CEO said we're all adults, so you can figure it out. You can figure out how you want to manage your teams or figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, also one of the things that I saw, or I've seen a few people talk about this on LinkedIn, is like, okay, Amazon, is this really just a way to force people to resign? Is this,
Probably.
yeah, is this really just because you don't want to do layoffs
Yeah.
and this is your method of,
Listen, my Roman Empire, which our friends will tell you, is honestly, I don't feel like we connect the dots back to leadership in companies who are making such poor decisions. And it's not because they're doing it all the time maliciously. I just think certain demographics get to fail up all the time and they make these random decisions about business that have like no data to support it. It's just off of feelings, vibes, thoughts, and prayers. And then they don't understand that this impacts an entire workforce. So rather than just actually defaulting to, people who know this, who are smarter than you don't have to be the all-knowing CEO or COO or lead executive in a company. You can actually source that stuff out, come together and make a collaborative decision, right, about the direction of your company. And I just feel like a lot of these strategies go back to someone just making these arbitrary decisions and, not having any consequences. Because at the end of the day, these people get laid off, you still get your bonus, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things that popped in my mind about this after, especially when seeing people say, okay, this is just their way of,
Yeah.
trying to get rid of people and avoid layoffs, was like, oh, right. Because if you remember, maybe a couple, 2, 3 years ago, was that a lot of this investigative reporting came out that Amazon essentially, their whole, at least for warehouse workers, is they purposefully try to get people to leave, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not
Yeah.
trying to get people to stay for a long period of
No.
time. They're trying to churn and burn, and they have a
Yeah.
higher turnover than most other orgs doing similar things, right? So like this is part of their philosophy.
Yeah. Just say that too, though. Honestly, just say it, but you don't want to pay the severance. You don't want to pay any of the kind of like ramifications that go alongside it. But listen, this just also goes back to if you feel like you can operate this lean, why did you not have your head HR person do an organizational design structure for you so you can actually see what kind of, workplace strategy you need as opposed to just overhiring, and being, hoovers. Because I think, especially during the pandemic, a lot of companies thought we're going to be this way forever. So let's just completely overhire. And it just like, I think for me, coming from, I'm first generation corporate worker, my parents did not operate in this realm. And so like, we never talked about like office stuff or anything like that. But I always had a reverence for people who had an executive title because I was like, clearly they know what they're doing. And then you get into workplaces and you're like, or not. So you're just like the guy who used to copy off of my paper in math class. You just have a better title and a higher salary. I got it. Okay. We're all people here. Okay.
Ah,
Got
yeah.
it. Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Yes. Yeah. No, I feel all of that. And it it feels like it is just people deciding to do a thing because that's how they did it. That's how
Hmm.
they think it needs to be done. They want to revert back,
Hmm.
and regardless of what any kind of data or info or anything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
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 Uh, so
Oh.
I know it's just a big sigh. So it wasn't clear that we're booting that all around,
Boat.
a tremendous boot.
Hmm.
And so, in as much as these might also kind of all connect, we're going to
Yes.
look at a few other articles together.
Yes.
Um, that is, let me share this here. So, first, we've got Cisco's huge layoff round slams Bay Area offices, more than 800 workers cut. We have also, oh, got to scroll up to the top here. Intel is laying off over 15,000 employees and will stop non essential work. And then we've also got PwC firing 1,800 employees. And it asks the question, what's driving major US layoffs? So, what are your thoughts as you're kind of seeing this? We've got these RTOs that are being pushed, we've got these layoffs that are happening. What
So I think the theme here also are these companies that essentially were too big to do, quick agile changes, right? Candidly, I used to work at Cisco. I was at a startup that actually got acquired by Cisco, and one of the things that I heard from Cisco employees at the time, and it was a tech startup, so I was very well versed in like the tech startup world. And talking to those Cisco employees, I realized that they actually weren't, even though they were in the Bay Area, because they still actually had things like vending machines. I'm like, I was like, startups actually have free food. And they were
yeah.
like, yeah, vending machines. And I was like, congratulations. So I feel like there's this disconnect from these larger companies in terms of like how fast they can move and how fast they can attach themselves to what's really happening. And it's really sad because again, if we look at that headline, Cisco's huge roundoff slams Bay Area offices, that's completely attached to real estate once again.
Yeah.
This is a lot of commercial real estate because commercial real estate was actually fueling a lot of these, massive companies anyway. So like that's how, they got some of their revenues because you are real estate rich. But
Yeah.
the Intel one is fascinating because I was like, you have 15,000 employees that you can just lay off and still, function well. So like what, what, what is happening over there? Like how, and stop non-essential work. So this is non-essential working employees. Who's designing this company in terms of like 15,000 employees who can be there and just not be essential? I just don't understand. And like for PwC, I feel like that was a long time in coming anyway, just because again, when you get to some of these larger companies that have multiple layers, most of us have worked in some of them to some degree, and we realize that there are people who are literally hired to bring this pen to this side and then back. That's their job every single day, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that you can't go in there and actually understand how you can make a company more efficient and make sure people are growing, enjoying the work that they do, as opposed to just layering and layering and layering on and just like hiring without even thinking about strategy or efficiency is just wild to me. And again, irresponsible, right? Because like these people didn't ask for that. You posted a job and they got the job and they're there to do the service. You're just not fulfilling your end of the bargain of actually making this a company that they should be part of and they could be part of. That's why there's no loyalty. That's why people are like, even with all of this, we hear about people who are saying, if there's going to be an RTO policy, I will figure it out. So lots of, other, people who would be in the workforce are going towards gig economy. They're figuring out other things because they realize these companies are not going to be serious. And the last thing I'll say is, mind you, all of these people you're laying off are also customers in a capitalist market. They're
Mm.
going to remember you. So like if you got laid off at one of these companies, you're going to remember how you were treated. And are you going to be an advocate for that company? Like how do you become a working ambassador for a company that literally just said you're non-essential?
Yeah. I hadn't even thought about that. And that's a good point too, because I forget which one, it might have been, I can't remember. But they said that they basically like knew that the layoffs were going to happen, but didn't find out whether their roles were impacted for like a month.
Yeah.
And it's a long time to wonder whether or not you
So
are going to have a job.
Yeah, yeah. I think Cisco's told people September, and then they're like, so November, you're not going to have a job. So like, I don't know, what are we do? What are we doing between September, October, and November? I just don't understand like how like why this is not like proactive rather than reactive. And it's
Yes.
Q4. So we all know Q4 means Q4 numbers, which mean Q1 numbers, right? So you're trying to make all of the numbers that you need for your shareholders. So if you lay off people in Q4, Q1 is going to look really great for you, but you can't keep selling off furniture and saying you're making a profit your business. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it always reminds me of that movie, How to Marry a Millionaire with like Lauren Bacall and Marilyn Monroe, where they're just trying to land like a millionaire and they rent out an apartment that's like on Park Avenue, and to make their bills, they just keep selling furniture off, but they live on Park Avenue. So they'd walk in and it's like empty. But they live on Park Avenue. Like it just doesn't make you can't soon you're gonna run out of furniture. Like what happens after that?
Yeah. Yeah, to your point, I mean, the one in the Intel one really did say like, okay, we're reducing capital expenditures, aka buildings, real
Yep.
estate. So to your point, it also does feel like, okay, a lot of this was maybe companies, that how big commercial real estate was a factor in a lot of
Yep.
this, and how
Hmm.
many companies probably held on, I don't know, wondering either because they thought it was, good for their portfolio or because they thought they were going to bring people back or whatever it was. But now they're sitting on top of all of this that is just an expense for them.
Yeah, my husband works in corporate real estate, and and so we get to talk about this fun stuff all the time. We've never actually gotten to have conversations about the workplace that kind of intersect with each other, but we talk about the fact that real estate for a long time was a sign of healthy companies, right? The more kind of you look at the WeWork model, like people are using renting out a WeWork because it looks like you can afford that. You have like space, like so brick and mortar basically was supposed to be the way that says you are doing really well as a company. And now they're sitting on commercial real estate that some of them can't even get rid of. Some of them like
Yeah.
signed leases for 20 years because pre-pandemic why did we think we were ever going to be, hybrid or remote,
Right.
right? And now the commercial real estate market has just been in such flux because of these companies just trying to offload and can't offload because nobody's buying them. Like
Yeah.
nobody's taking over leases, none of this stuff. So they're like, sorry, workers, you're going to have to come back to work. And then people are going to be like, no. And then what happens? We're at a stalemate. We're just gonna be staring at each other, like who's gonna move first.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting to finally see that, finally really start seeing that shake out a bit more because I
Yeah.
think it was something, especially for tech companies, we talked about earlier on, a few years back in the, like earlier on in the pandemic, where it was like real estate. Everyone is, this is
Yeah.
just a problem because of office space, right?
Right.
And now it seems like that's hitting some of the bigger companies as well,
Yeah.
finally.
All we
Um,
need is a ping pong room and we're good to go. Like that was, and now you can barely get people to, people share. My favorite thing is when people share what the office looks like when they're forced to do RTO, and it's like them and two other people, and
yeah.
under fluorescent lights, and like with their space heater, they're not supposed to have this bootleg because it's cold in
Oh, the space heater. Yeah, that brings it back. Um,
there.
the
I
other
don't
thing,
want to trigger you.
yeah, I know, right? Oh my gosh. Um, the other thing that I thought was interesting, from on the PwC one, was that they said that they were doubling down on their generative AI investment. And it kind of flagged a little bit for me of like, okay, is this a bit of where we start to see the shift of AI, or at least I don't know that not necessarily saying AI is taking people's jobs,
Right.
but do they think it can? I guess
Yeah.
was like my thought there.
I think that's such a great point because I feel like I don't know if I saw this on Jen Laurie's LinkedIn post really recently, but people were saying like, I wish that you thought about the human experience as much as you think about how AI is going to take over it, right? And so
Yeah.
like That's the thing too, is just I think there's this over estimation of what AI is actually going to be capable of. And I don't necessarily, because I do believe I like AI a lot, 100%, but it's only as good as the user, right? And until we figure that piece out, but I think companies are always looking for this band-aid and this reason to kind of blame, why they're making such poor decisions, that some of them just go, oh yeah, generative AI is going to just take over and we won't need any of this stuff. And they just keep pushing the initiative until it fails. And then they start looking at each other and until we
Yeah.
have board accountability, like, I don't know, like the board should be like, so walk me through this one more time. Like, how does this actually work? How do you think this is going to replace? Like, what can we do to be at the forefront? I just feel like we keep using these buzzwords, and
Yeah.
then we're all just going to be looking at each other when AI literally just like has a whole like meltdown or something wild happens and then we can't use it anymore. Like, because the pandemic has taught us anything is possible, right?
Yeah. Well, and also what the cloud strike going down also taught us that, right?
Right,
Like,
right,
or
right.
or you think it would have taught us something, but I'm not sure if it did.
Right.
To your
That's
point.
exactly. We have all these things happening, and I just don't feel like we keep learning from the lessons that are happening. We just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I think AI can be a great, great tool if there's so many voices out there talking about how we can collaborate with it. But the idea that you're saying it's just going to replace most jobs, or, when you have to tell it to, hey, is what you just told me actually true? And it's like, oh, sorry, no, it's actually not. So, like, what? You do a whole presentation with your AI and like you never double checked anything, and then all of a sudden, you're presenting false information. Like, it just
Yeah.
doesn't. And it's not like it's that new, which is so wild to me. Like, AI's been around for what, like 80 years at this point. We've just had a surge of it. And so all of a sudden people are just taking it and running with it because they're desperate for something to change the economy and something to change business. When
Yeah.
we could change agents, we don't have, you know what I mean? Like, we could be using it instead of it using us.
Yeah. No, I mean that is a really good point. A really interesting point is like again, it is at all costs, it seemed that we are looking towards our technology and our tools and really doubling down on all of that instead
Mhm.
of doubling down on the humans, the experience, the internal knowledge that gets
Right.
like all of those things, right?
Yeah, it's like that bad that one of the Twilight Zones. I love Twilight. Anytime there's a Twilight Zone marathon, just send me my snacks because I'm not leaving. But the one where there was a computer that basically the business owner brought in a computer and it started slowly replacing all the beloved employees in the company. And then one day the computer actually replaced the owner and he's all outraged and like, goes to a bar and gets drunk and sees all the former employees and he's like thinks it was the best thing ever. And it's like Rod Serling basically talked to us about it in the 60s, then how come you didn't actually listen to him?
Yeah.
We're repeating conversations.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So to round this out,
Yes.
I think this is one of the things, kind of a through line through a fair amount of this
Yeah.
is working in the office 5 days a week to build company culture is a myth, PwC report says.
Hopefully they didn't fire the person who actually put that report together.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of us have been saying that from the beginning. We were literally saying that from the beginning. Like, we act as though we had perfect workplace culture before the pandemic.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nothing was wrong. Everything was great. We were all collaborative. There were no problems at all whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the things what I like in this article, so yeah, it is a toot for me because they are
Yeah,
just pointing out. I do love when data just comes around to confirm things that
right.
our folks have been saying forever, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, but I appreciate that they said they kind of called out that, to your point, when everyone's just in the office, there is this assumption that culture just happens, right? You don't have to be intentional about it. It's just
Mhm.
people buy a water cooler, done, check off
Mhm.
culture, right?
Mhm.
And that being hybrid, being remote actually forced people to be more intentional about culture. Uh,
Right.
and so, and hence having a better culture, hybrid workers
Mhm.
showing more satisfaction because there's an intentionality around developing the culture.
Yeah.
And so, looping back to Amazon and all these other ones, they're like, well, we just smash you in the office 5 days a week. We've got culture again. And it's like, no, you are again trying to just almost wash your hands of it, check the box because you think you got people in a space at the same time and that equals culture.
Well, I like when it says that, the office becomes a crutch basically because everything happens by default, which means that the executives get to do less work because they're just like putting you on one place and like have at it. Not thinking about the person basically who has to probably commute there maybe an hour or two, right? You're missing out on picking up your kids. You're doing all of these different things that we said work-life balance was important.
Yeah.
And then we said, just kidding. Work-life balance means I want you to balance out your commute to get to work, and you can figure out everything else from that point on afterwards. And it's like, we have to figure out exactly what really is important because if you really don't want to learn how to manage people effectively and you just want to push them together in one physical space, I have news for you. Your HR person is going to tell you that that doesn't work either because you're still going
Yeah.
to have a bunch of problems. So at this
Yes.
point, you're just filling up your physical space that you can't offload. But so I'm a definite shoot for this report as well because I feel like it basically is the data that should be informing a lot of these leaders, but they decide, they're selective in their curation of the news that they want to actually work on. So here we
Yeah.
are at
Yeah.
their mercy once again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like there was a line that I pulled out from it that
Hmm.
said RTOs and measures that monitor attendance, including tracking badge swiping, sends out the message that workers' presence is more
Yeah.
important to the company than output or meaningful collaboration. And
Hmm.
I think we're seeing more and more of that with the RTOs and like people having to badge in and we're going to track your attendance on your computer and like all of this kind of stuff. And ultimately what all you're saying is that attendance is more important than anything else. It's
Yeah.
presenteeism, right? Like,
Right. Which then goes back to that non-essential thing too, right? Like who are those, 15,000 workers whose presence was important, but the work that they were doing wasn't important? Like, so again, like what I feel like we just have to have a real honest conversation and just like ask the right questions. And I think this kind of report helps do that. I just don't know who's going to be raising it in the executive boardroom because like I just want to have a seat at the table so I can just like drop this report bomb and then be like, let's talk about this and see, what our strategy is going to be for the future. But, either you go with, how the world is unfolding or you get left behind. Like I just keep saying that. You can try to keep your company the same as it's been for many decades and watch the other companies who are definitely at the forefront and okay with like moving forward, progress and actually have better candidate, attraction and talent recognition.
yeah, yeah,
Who do you want to be?
yeah, really. And it's funny that you're saying now that you're saying that too, I'm thinking too of like it again, like thinking about some of these organizations doing the things that they're doing is not innovative in any way at all. It's not moving
No.
forward. It is not, yeah.
Yeah. We're agile, we're innovative. Stop putting that on your job descriptions if that's not what you are. Like this, just stop saying that because it's not true.
Yeah.
We're just throwing words around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is fabulous.
I loved
I
it.
so enjoyed talking to you about all of these things. And I know that folks were really, this has been on a lot of folks' minds
Yes.
through like, what does it actually mean? And so I really appreciate your insights and appreciate you joining me.
Thank you for having me. Anytime I can talk about this stuff with you and tootin' bootin', I'm just down for it because they give us a lot of content to do that with, don't they? They just
They
do.
sure do.
Thank you, companies, for continuously delivering.
All right, thanks all. That's another Tutor Boot in the books. Thanks for listening to another episode of Toot or Boot. You can keep in touch with me, Stacy, on LinkedIn, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter at tootorboot.com. And if you're enjoying Toot or Boot, we'd appreciate your positive review on your favorite podcast platform.